$10 million. How can it change everything when the moment you decide to trust someone becomes the moment everything begins to fall apart? The village that once looked at Jack with cautious hope was now slowly shifting into something colder, something distant, something he had never truly faced before: disappointment. It started with belief. And it began with Hung. Medicinal herbs, Hung had said days earlier, his voice calm, confident, persuasive. The land here is perfect. We don't just give money to people, we create something that lasts. Jobs. Growth. Stability. At the time, it sounded right. It sounded like exactly what Jack needed. No more giving blindly. No more being misunderstood. This was structure. This was sustainability. And most importantly, this was control. Standing on a wide piece of land at the edge of the village, Jack looked out over rows of freshly planted medicinal crops. The soil had been cleared, workers had been hired, tools had been purchased, and systems had been set up. It had cost him a large portion of the money. More than he originally planned. But he believed it would work. This is just the beginning, Hung said, standing beside him, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning the land. In a few months, you'll see the results. Jack nodded slowly. People will benefit from this. They will, Hung replied. And you'll earn their trust back. That word, trust, stayed in Jack's mind. Because lately, he felt it slipping away. At first, everything seemed fine. Villagers came to work. The fields were active. There was movement, purpose, direction. Even Truong Thon Pao watched from a distance, saying nothing, but observing everything carefully. And Tu Tien, she didn't stop him. But she didn't fully support him either. Are you sure about this? She asked one evening, her voice soft but concerned. Jack looked at her. It's the right thing to do. Or the faster thing to do, she asked quietly. Jack frowned slightly. You don't trust it? Tu Tien hesitated. I trust you, she said. But I don't trust everything around you right now. That sentence lingered longer than he expected. But he chose to move forward anyway. Because he needed this to work. He needed something solid. Something that proved he wasn't just throwing money away. Days turned into weeks. And then, the problems began. First, the weather shifted unexpectedly. Heavy rain came earlier than predicted, soaking the land, disrupting the growth of the plants. Some crops began to rot before they could even develop properly. It's just temporary, Hung said when Jack confronted him. We adjust. We recover. Jack wanted to believe that. So he invested more. More workers. More materials. More money. But then, something worse happened. A portion of the land turned out to be unsuitable for the type of medicinal plants they had chosen. The soil composition was wrong. The roots failed to grow properly. How did we not know this? Jack demanded. Hung remained calm. Agriculture always carries risk. Jack stared at him. You told me this would work. I told you it had potential, Hung corrected. That difference hit hard. And still, Jack kept going. Because stopping now would mean admitting failure. And he wasn't ready for that. But the village was already noticing. Workers began leaving. Whispers returned. This project isn't working. He wasted the money. He doesn't understand this place. Those words spread faster than the crops could grow. Or fail. One afternoon, Jack stood alone in the field, staring at rows of damaged plants. Mud covered the ground, leaves were wilted, and the once promising land now looked defeated. Just like him. Behind him, a small group of villagers gathered. Not to help, but to watch. Is this what he spent the money on? One man said. All that money, for this? Another added. Jack clenched his fists. But said nothing. Because there was nothing he could say. From a distance, Truong Thon Pao stepped forward slowly, his presence commanding silence. "I warned you," Pao said calmly. Jack turned to face him. "You didn't understand this land," Pao continued. "And now, you're paying the price." Jack's jaw tightened. "I was trying to help." "Help?" Pao repeated. "Or prove something?" The question cut deeper than any accusation. Before Jack could respond, Pao added, "People trusted you once. Now, they see the truth." And with that, he turned and walked away, taking the remaining belief of the villagers with him. Jack stood there, surrounded not by support, but by silence and judgment. That night, the village felt colder than ever. Inside the small house, Jack sat alone, staring at the numbers written on a piece of paper. Losses. Costs. Failures. A large portion of the $10 million, gone. Not into something that helped, but into something that collapsed. Tu Tien stood at the doorway, watching him quietly. "You should rest," she said softly. Jack didn't look up. "I made a mistake," he said. It was the first time he admitted it out loud. Tu Tien stepped closer. "Mistakes can be fixed." Jack shook his head slowly. "Not this one." His voice was low, heavy. "I trusted the wrong person." Silence filled the room. "And now," he continued, finally looking up, eyes filled with something he hadn't shown before, uncertainty, "I don't know who to trust anymore." Tu Tien looked at him, her expression filled with concern. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about something deeper. Something breaking inside him. Outside, in the darkness, Hung stood quietly, watching the faint light from Jack's house. His expression unreadable. Because while Jack believed this was a failure, for someone else, this was only the beginning. And for the first time since the $10 million changed everything. Jack wasn't in control anymore. $10 million. How can it continue to change everything when the first failure doesn't just take your money, but begins to take away who you are? That night, Jack barely slept. The sound of rain hitting the roof echoed like a constant reminder of everything that had gone wrong. Every decision replayed in his mind. The moment he trusted Hung, the moment he ignored Tu Tien's hesitation, the moment he chose speed over understanding. It wasn't just a bad investment. It was the first crack in his confidence, and it spread faster than he expected. Morning came, but it didn't feel like a new beginning. It felt like exposure. As Jack stepped outside, the usual greetings were gone. No one waved. No one smiled. People passed by him as if he were a stranger, or worse, someone they no longer respected. Two men stood near the road, speaking just loud enough for him to hear. "He lost a huge amount, didn't he? I heard it was almost everything for that project. $10 million, and he still failed." Jack kept walking. But every word followed him. Every glance weighed on him. At the edge of the damaged field, the reality stood clearly in front of him. Workers were gone. Tools lay abandoned. The land that once symbolized hope now looked like proof of his mistake. And then, "You see it now?" Jack turned slowly. Truong Thon Pao stood there again, calm, composed, almost as if he had been waiting for this moment. Jack didn't respond. Pao stepped closer, his gaze steady. "This land doesn't follow money. It follows understanding." Jack exhaled slowly. "I understand that now. But it's too late," Pao replied. Those words hit harder than before. Jack looked at the field again. "So what do you want me to do? Walk away?" Pao didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at Jack carefully, as if measuring him. "People don't trust easily here," he said. "And once they lose it, it's hard to earn back." Jack clenched his jaw slightly. "I didn't come here to prove anything." "Then why did you invest like this?" Pal asked sharply. Jack had no answer. Because deep down, he knew. He wasn't just helping. He was trying to fix everything at once. Too fast. Too blindly. Pal turned away slightly. If you stay, you start again. From zero. Jack's eyes narrowed slightly. And if I leave? Pal looked back at him. Then everything you did here means nothing. Silence fell between them. Because for the first time, leaving sounded easier. But staying meant facing everything. Pal walked away slowly, leaving Jack alone once again. But this time, the silence wasn't empty. It was heavy with a decision. Later that day, inside the house, THალაქ Tien sat quietly while Jack stood near the window, staring outside. I should have listened to you, he said suddenly. THალაქ Tien looked at him. You were trying to do the right thing. Jack shook his head. No. I was trying to fix everything quickly. That's not the same. THალაქ Tien didn't argue. Because she knew, he was right. I lost their trust, Jack continued. And I don't know how to get it back. THალაქ Tien stood up and walked toward him. Then don't try to get it back all at once, she said softly. Start small. Jack turned to her. After this. Do you think they'll even give me that chance? THალაქ Tien held his gaze. They might not, she admitted. But that doesn't mean you stop. Her words were simple. But steady. For a moment, Jack said nothing. Then. What if I fail again, he asked quietly. THალაქ Tien didn't hesitate. Then you stand up again. That answer stayed with him. Because it was the only thing that still felt real. Outside, hidden behind a wooden wall not far from the house, Hung listened silently, his expression unreadable. So this is where you are now, he murmured under his breath. There was no satisfaction. Only calculation. Because Jack's failure had opened something. Doubt. And doubt could be shaped. That evening, Hung approached Jack again. You look like someone who just learned a very expensive lesson, Hung said casually. Jack didn't react the way he used to. I trusted you, he said calmly. Hung nodded. And you should have trusted the risk too. Jack's eyes hardened. You knew this could fail. Of course, Hung replied. Everything can fail. Jack stepped closer. Then why didn't you tell me? Hung met his gaze directly. Because you wouldn't have listened, he said. That stopped Jack. Because it was true. Hung continued, you wanted something that worked fast. I gave you something that had potential. The rest was your choice. Jack looked away. For the first time, he didn't argue. Because blaming Hung didn't change the outcome. I can help you recover, Hung added. Jack shook his head immediately. No. That answer came faster than anything he had said before. Hung raised an eyebrow slightly. You're sure? Yes, Jack replied firmly. This time. I do it my way. A small silence followed. Then Hung smiled. Not disappointed. But intrigued. Good, he said. That makes things more interesting. Jack didn't respond. Because something inside him had shifted. Not fully repaired. But no longer completely broken. Hung stepped back slowly. Just remember, failure is only dangerous if you don't understand it. Then he turned and walked away. Leaving Jack standing there, not with confidence, but with something new. Clarity. Later that night, Jack sat alone again, but this time, there were no numbers in front of him. No calculations. No plans. Just silence. And thought. I start again, he said quietly to himself. Not as a statement. But as a decision. Outside, the village remained distant. The trust, still gone. The doubt, still present. and the pressure, still building. But for the first time since the $10 million began changing everything, Jack wasn't trying to control